Hey guys, YouTuber 100 here. Alright, and now here I am to start off these classic monster movie reviews that I'm doing this month. And to begin with, here I am starting off with a review for Dracula. So, yeah, I thought that this was a pretty good movie overall. Yeah, I mean, you did have a really good cast of characters here. I mean, and you did have overall like some pretty memorable scenes in this movie. And yeah, this story is just like a really famous, iconic story. This movie is of course like loosely based on the novel by Bram Stoker, and yeah, I'm not really quite sure how much this really does have to do with the book, but yeah, as far as the movie goes, I did think that it was pretty good. Of course, like Bela Lugosi in this film is just like fantastic as Dracula. I mean, yeah, this is like one of the most famous performances of all time. I mean, yeah, Bela Lugosi just like really did is like fantastic in this film as Dracula. And yeah, you do have like some other good performances. There's like Helen Chandler, David Manners, there's Edward Van Sloan, Dwight Fry, and yeah, just a bunch of other actors in this film, and yeah, they all do pretty good in this. Yeah, but yeah, the reason that I just said this was like a really good movie rather than a great film is just because there are some things in this film that I felt really like brought it down for me. Like two things in particular. The first one was that we didn't get to see like any of the kills in this film like actually on screen. Like whenever like Dracula would ever like kill somebody, like of course, like sucking their blood and stuff, it never actually showed it. Like whenever he was about to do it, it just like faded away to like black or another scene or something. Like we never actually did get to see that. And plus, like in this film, like we never actually see Dracula with like the vampire fangs that like a lot of vampires do have. We never actually see that on him. I mean, yeah, I know that this film did come out in 1931, so maybe they just didn't like have the good enough effects to really like make it seem realistic enough back then. But yeah, I just kind of like felt that it was really unfortunate that we couldn't actually see any of the killings on screen in this film. I mean, that's just something that I really didn't like about it. And the second thing is just that I felt that the ending for this film was just like really weak, to be honest. Because I mean, just this film really just ends with Dracula just getting so easily killed as he's sleeping in his casket. Like, we don't really get to see anything, like, there's no real, like, big fight or anything between, like, Dracula and Van Helsing or anything. It's just, like, Dracula goes to sleep in his casket because the sun's about to come up. And then Van Helsing just stabs him right in the heart with a wooden stake, and Dracula's just killed that easily. I mean, yeah, we don't even see anything, like, putting up a fight or anything with Dracula trying to, like, kill Van Helsing himself and stuff. Instead, it's just oh, he's asleep and boom, that's it. I mean, so yeah, that's really like the two things in this film that I really felt were really did like prevent it from really being a great film. I mean, if we actually did get to see like that stuff that I really felt brought it down, this probably could have really been a great film, but because it just really doesn't have those two things, I really just think that this just ends up being a pretty good film, rather than a great one. But I still do think that this, overall, is a pretty good film. I would give this film probably 3.5 stars out of 4. Yeah, as I said, Bela Lugosi is just, like, fantastic as Dracula. I mean, he really did have a great performance in this film. I mean, yeah, he could really make it seem like he could be really intimidating. Like anytime he would just like give that like chilling stare at people, and he was just like really mysterious and stuff. Nothing really was like actually scary about him, I don't think. But yeah, he definitely did like have a really great performance with this film. And yeah, as I said, like everyone else was like pretty good also. So yeah, let me just get right into it. Alright, so the movie opens up with, like, just it shows Renfield, who's just like a solicitor, and he like is going on a business travel to Transylvania to Count Dracula's castle. But the villagers are just like fearing that the castle really is like swarming with vampires, and they really don't think that Renfield should go there. But yeah, Renfield ended up like traveling to the castle anyway. Yeah. And then as he like arrived at the Borgo Pass, it then like showed Dracula's castle and stuff at the Borgo, and then yeah, it's just shown like there are like some like caskets already there, and it shows a few like vampires emerging from them, including Dracula being one of them. And yeah, as Renfield then arrived at the castle at the Borgo Pass, yes, like it then showed like as the second yeah, carriage that was gonna take him to the castle. It then showed like Dracula actually was like disguised as the carriage driver, and then like Renfield just then aborted the second carriage, and it was like Dracula was like being really mysterious, just like staring at Renfield, and he then was like driving the carriage to his castle, and as Renfield was like trying to like ask the driver to slow down a little bit, he then like stuck his head out of the window of the carriage, and then he saw that there really was the driver was gone, but it then like showed then like there was just a bat leading the two horses pulling the carriage. Yeah, yeah, which of course was still Dracula. Dracula, of course, because yeah, as probably all you know, like vampires are able to transform into bats and stuff. Yeah. And eventually it arrived at the castle, and as Renfield then entered, like Dracula then like greeted him, and of course like Renfield didn't like know yet that Dracula was a vampire, and yeah, Dracula was like at first just treating Renfield as a guest at his home, and giving him like some food and his bed and stuff. And as they were talking about like Dracula's intention to like him wanting to lease the Carfax Abbey in London, where he wanted to travel the next day. Eventually, like Dracula just ended up like hypnotizing Renfield, and then Renfield eventually like opened a window after Dracula left, and then yeah, Renfield just then saw that then there was a bat outside the window, and then yeah, Renfield just ended up passing out. And then it showed like three of Dracula's wives that were starting to approach him, but then Dracula then appeared again and then just waved his wives off, and then it showed him just like doing, I guess like biting Renfield to suck his blood and stuff. But yeah, like I said, like right as he was just like going over Renfield's body, it then just like cut to black and faded away, so we didn't actually see what Dracula really did to Renfield, which kind of sucks. But yeah. And then, yeah, the next day, as they were aboard, like, the Vesta ship traveling to London, it then, like, showed that Renfield was now slaving Dracula, and Dracula, of course, was, like, hiding in a coffin from the daylight since he was a vampire. Yeah. And well, apparently, like, Dracula was actually, like, feeding on the rest of the crew of the ship. And then, eventually, once the ship reached England, like, it was then, like, shown that Renfield really was, like, the only living person aboard the ship. And later on, as Dracula was, like, attending a show at a London theater, Dracula then met, like, Dr. Seward, and he was also, like, introduced to, like, Seward's daughter Mina and her fiance Harker, and also, like, Lucy, a family friend. And Lucy, like, had ended up, like, having a fascination for Dracula, and later that night, as Lucy was sleeping, Dracula then just entered, like, Lucy's bedroom, and then just ended up, like, feasting on her blood as she was sleeping. And then the next day it was like showing that Lucy like went under like a series of transfusions but eventually died from it. Yeah. And yeah, then like was showing that Renfield was now like sent into a sanitarium by that was owned by Dr. Seward. Yeah. Yeah, and yet then like showed that Renfield now had an obsession with like eating flies and spiders and stuff. And after like Professor Van Helsing then analyzed Renfield's blood and discovered his obsession, yeah, and then yes, he was like starting to talk about the vampires and stuff, and then yeah, Renfield was then just begging Dr. Seward to send him away, and he just felt that like his cries could like actually disturb Mina's dreams at night. Yeah, and then and it was then like Renfield was then like called with a wolf howl, and then after like Van Helsing was like showing Renfield wolfbane, and which actually was a like a protection from vampires. Then like Renfield doesn't end up like being disturbed from that, and yeah, like I just said, it was revealed that wolfbane actually would be like protect people from vampires. Yeah. And yeah, eventually, like as Mina was also asleep in her bedroom, Dracula visits her and then like bit her neck too, which we didn't see again, or when he did it to Lucy. Yeah, and then yeah, and then the following night, like like Van Helsing and Harker like noticed that Mina actually was bitten in her neck. Yeah, and then one Dracula eventually then like arrived too, and then like Van Helsing and Harker also noticed that in a mirror Dracula had no reflection, and then yeah, that was really when Van Helsing discovered that Dracula was a vampire. Yeah, yeah, and yeah, he discovered that also Dracula was behind like all the tragedies, like with what happened to Lucy and what happened to Mina and everything. Yeah. And after Dracula like then left, Mina then just like saw Dracula in the garden, and Dracula ended up attacking her again, and then like just then the maid ended up finding Mina, and then like there were reports in the paper that like there was a woman in like luring children from the park and like and biting them too. And yeah, Mina actually recognized that Lucy was the one that was behind all that, and she was now a vampire too. Yeah. And then Harker then just like wanted to take Mina away back to London to keep her safe. But is eventually then like then was convinced to just leave Mina with Van Helsing. And yeah, Van Helsing then just like had a wreath of wolfbane around Mina's neck, and yeah, he just ordered the maid to just take care of Mina as she sleeps and not to remove it. And then, like, later on, like, Renfield was then just, like, listening to, like, Van Helsing and Harker just discussing vampires, and then, like, Renfield then was just, like, relating to them about Dracula, convincing him to allow him to enter the sanatorium, and he promised him, like, rats with blood and life. Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, Dracula then just ended up like entering the Seward, and then he just then like was telling Van Helsing that Mina belongs to him, and he was just giving Van Helsing a warning to return to his own home country of the Netherlands, and yeah, Van Helsing was just then like swearing to excavate a abbey and destroy Dracula. And then yeah, Dracula then was like trying to hypnotize Van Helsing also, but yeah, of course like the Wolfbane was stronger and was like overpowering Dracula's attempt. Yeah. And then like as Dracula was like trying about to go at Van Helsing, Van Helsing then like ended up pulling out a crucifix, and then of course like because vampires are against things like that, Dracula ended up just like bailing. And as Harker was then like speaking with Mina, she was like talking about her love for knights and fogs, you know, and it was then like showing there was a bat flying over them, and then yeah, Mina was then like starting to attack Harker, but then like Van Helsing and Seward ended up like interceding, yeah, yeah, and then yeah, Mina then just then confessed what Dracula actually did to her, yeah, and eventually Dracula ended up like hypnotizing Briggs to remove the Wolfbane from Mina's neck and then open windows, and then yeah, Van Helsing and Harker then just like saw Renfield heading for the Abbey, and then they followed him. And you know, once they arrived at the Abbey, Dracula and Mina were also there. Yeah, and then once Dracula then discovered that Van Helsing and Harker were actually there, he thought that Renfield actually led them to the Abbey, and then yeah, Dracula ended up killing Renfield, and then yeah, Van Helsing and Harker were just then chasing Dracula down. And then yeah, Dracula then was just then like put Mina in one coffin, and then he went into another, and yeah, sleep, and they went to their day sleep. Yeah, and one, and then yeah, then once like Van Helsing and Harker opened the casket that Mina was in, once they opened it, she wasn't there anymore, and yeah, Harker then just went to find Mina, and then yeah, Van Helsing then prepared a wooden stake, and then yeah, he then just ended up like impaling Dracula through the heart just like that. Like I said, without any fight or anything. Yeah, Dracula just like was killed so easily in this. Yeah, so yeah, that's one of the things that I think are really bring this movie down. And yeah, once Dracula was then killed, Mina then was back to normal, and then yeah, the three of them just ended up leaving the Abbey together, and that's how it ended. So yeah, kind of an abrupt ending like that, just ending like that. And yeah, the death of White Dracula was killed. I just felt it was really weak, but still a good film nonetheless. Like I said, 3.5 stars out of 4. I mean, you know, while those two things that I was talking about earlier, I felt really do prevent this movie from being great for what this movie does have, and I guess for what they were able to do back then, I guess that this was a pretty good movie. I guess they were like doing the best they could for what the type of technology and effects that they had at the time. So I guess I really can't complain too much. Alright, so yeah, alright, so that does it for my review of Dracula. I hope you guys did enjoy this review, and stay tuned as these monster movie reviews continue throughout the month. Alright, so I hope you guys enjoyed this review, so yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.